Oh my goodness. I am so sorry, guys. We have it
no
all
worries.
ready this afternoon. Thanks for
Alan,
joining us
Alan
tonight.
Alan and I have been having a repartee on a separate chat, waiting to come on.
Well, you're
And
very patient. Thank you. Thank you. and
we're
everybody's excited that you're here this evening. Woo. Okay.
Wow, what a fun. Bigger than the Trump meeting.
So, guys, I'm going to start by asking, what drew you to do this film? What was it about the Rocketeer that made you want to do it?
one of these intense artistic discussions.
That means that one's going first.
Making a living was in there for me. I don't know what it was for Bill, but that was certainly in it for me. Also, it was a kind of part I'd never been asked to play before, so that was kind of fun.
I think for me it was just I had never done a movie before, so I was kind of excited to be in one.
Was that your first, Bill? I have no idea.
Yeah, that was the first one. I was almost a terrorist in Die Hard 2. But
you were too pleasant looking.
No. They actually hired me, but my for some reason my agent thought TV season was going to be too good, so he pulled me out of it. So yeah. So hey, if I had been a terrorist in Die Hard 2, I would never have met you, Alan.
Well, there would have been some way we would have met. I liked Bill right away. I found him. I thought we were going to get along very well. He was the only actor I had ever met up until that point. He read books, and I was really interested.
So this is interesting, Billy. Since that was your first film, essentially.
Yeah.
What was it like being on set that first day when you started shooting?
Oh my goodness! It was, well, we started shooting. If I'm not mistaken, Alan, didn't we start in Santa Maria with all the airplane stuff?
I don't have a memory of being anywhere else but Santa Maria.
Well, maybe that's true. No, that's not true.
Where else?
We were down in LA. Remember when our gazebo? You said we don't have a house, we have a gazebo. You remember that?
I'm 88 years old. I don't remember anything, and I'm proud of it.
I'm a little fuzzy myself, but that was all the tequila last night.
Well, Alan, when it comes to your character in the film, was that fully developed by you, or was there a, kind of direction given of how they wanted you to play it?
I don't remember ever speaking to the director, which was kind of nice. He was kind of a grumpy guy.
He was.
Yeah.
He was super utilitarian. He never.
Very impersonal.
Yes, impersonal, and I think it was you, in fact. I have to admit that Alan is, and I've told you this before, I'm not speaking out of school. You're a bit of a lodestar for me in terms of how to.
I've never heard such a thing in my life.
How to treat other people. Anyway, Alan was very, very kind to me and helped me. And I think one of the things I recall, Alan, that you helped me with was dealing with Joe, because it was my first movie, and here was a director, and he wasn't really saying anything to me at all. And I was a little nervous and insecure, and you really helped me through that. So
Well, it was easy, Bill. You were doing really good work from day one. You were doing really good work, and you didn't need any help. I mean, if I helped you feel more comfortable on the set, I'm happy about that. I like to do that with people. But you were cooking right from day one.
well, that's
In fact, I don't know if people know this about you, but I saw Bill about 5 years ago in a play. We lived near San Diego at he was in a play at the old Globe Theater. He was doing Shakespeare. I was a little trepidatious for a lot of reasons, but he was absolutely brilliant. It was Winter's Tale, I believe.
yes, it was.
He played the lead, and he was just brilliant in it.
I was comfortable almost from day one, and that was largely due to you, and so I'm ever grateful.
Goodness, you guys are wonderful. So then, Billy, with his help, I mean, how did you develop Cliff when it comes to handling it in the movie?
I didn't, it was my first movie, and I was really kind of excited and nervous, and I went to a lady before we started the movie. I don't know if I ever told you this, Alan, but I wrote a whole backstory. Yeah, I wrote a whole backstory for Cliff, and I'm gonna send it to you because it's. I mean, obviously you're in it.
You wrote my backstory for me?
Well, yes, a little bit. Our backstory. And I
you told me then.
What's that?
I wish you'd told me then.
I was probably a little too nervous to do that. But anyway, I went to see a lady, and she recommended, doing that, as you sometimes used to do in acting class, write a little backstory or whatever. And I couldn't stop writing it once I started. It was a great deal of fun. And so I kind of showed up, and I don't know. I don't know how much the backstory had anything to do with it, but I've always been a sucker for period movies, for that period in particular, 1930s and 20s, 30s, 40s. And I was over the moon. They were letting me do my own stunts, and to answer your question, I'm not sure how much I was actually thinking about the character. I was just running around having fun.
Well, what would you say was what was the best memory you had working on the film?
Oh my God, working with Alan. Yeah. I mean, that's no contest. But I was also I was falling in love at the same time. So that was pretty nifty.
Oh.
Just to make it clear that it wasn't with me.
What about you, Alan? What did you?
Well, in a sense, I was falling in love with you, Alan. So there you go.
What about you, Alan? What do you remember was one of your best memories working on the film?
Well, I had two. Absolutely working with Bill. It's sad. I feel bad about this, but he's one of the few friends that I've kept over the years in the business. For some reason, people tend to have very intense relationships and drift off a lot. Bill and I have kept in contact with each other, which I'm very happy about, very grateful for. One of the few other people I've ever had that with was Andy Garcia, who's another terrific guy, a wonderful guy. And he and I stay in touch. But aside from that, there's a few people on the cruise that I stayed together in contact with, but very few actors, almost no actors. But working with Bill was absolutely the highlight of the film for me. The only other highlight was almost getting killed. There's a scene on the runway.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm happy you were smiling.
Well, I'm smiling now.
There's a scene on the runway where I'm chasing his plane had crashed, and it was being pulled on a steel cable. And I was running behind the plane, and the steel cable snapped and wrapped around my leg, flew me up in the air about 4 feet. I landed on my back, and I was completely out of it for about 2 minutes. I had to do whether I'd broken my back or what.
He's
So,
never been the same since.
I wasn't the same before either.
No. Yeah, that was a bit scary. I didn't actually see that happen, but I was there, of course, on the scene right after, and you were hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so those were the two times of excitement on the film, meeting Bill and almost getting killed.
Yeah, almost getting killed. Well, Bill, you sent, and just to let you could go to nmentertains.com to check it out. Billy sent me his thoughts on what it was like working on the film. And I have to say, I had to ask this when it comes to Jennifer, because you had such kind of things to say. What was it like working with her?
It was heaven. It was heaven. And you know, I mean, it was heaven. She's lovely. She's a magnificent actress. I'm not even sure she knew at that point how good she was, but she was tremendous and a lovely, lovely person. And we, you know, we became an item and a couple, and we're together for 5 years or so. And you know, it was a blessing. I still think of it as a blessing in my life. And so, I mean, imagine, you know, your first movie, you're working with Alan Arkin, and you're falling in love and running around in tight pants and doing stunts. You know, I mean, it just was amazing. You know, and I was sort of burning the candle at both ends. Santa Maria, in particular, hanging out with all those stunt pilots. There was a magnificent amount of beer drinking going on, and I don't know whether you shared the thing that I wrote or not, but I can tell you when you're watching the film tonight that when Alan is getting ready to put the canopy on the cockpit, and he says, "Be careful up there," and I turn to him and rather jauntily reply, "Let's make some history." I can tell you that in that moment, Cliff is absolutely and totally hungover as blazes. So there's a little Easter egg for you.
You're following a long tradition.
So, guys, why do you feel this movie is so beloved by fans?
I just think it has this just wonderful, sweet spirit that you know, that moves people, and I think it's just perfectly cast, and I don't know, it's just a wonderful, warm-spirited film.
From my standpoint, I had no idea that I had a big, huge fan base. This comes as a surprise to me. But I'm happy. I'm thrilled that it does, but I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, you're kind of out of it anyway.
It's true. But I wasn't drunk on the set.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Oh, you guys are, you're great. Okay, so before I ask my last question, I'm actually going to open it up to the audience members. So if you have a question, come on up so they can see your face.
Evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
I just have to say it's wonderful to be here, and this is definitely one of those movies that when I was 10 or 11 years old was in constant rotation from the video store, and so I think my parents got a little worried that we were watching it so much, frankly. But Billy, I wasn't aware that it was your very first film, and Alan, certainly you'd had quite a long career prior to that. But in terms, I'm just curious, and maybe you've already kind of gone over this a little bit in your impressions of your experience. But it was a big, huge effects movie at a time when it wasn't all digital effects. It was a lot of practical stuff and crashing planes and cables and death-defying stunts. And I'm just curious if you wanted to talk a little bit about your experience working at that scale, and did it change your approach to acting or to how you would approach a film if you hadn't done stuff like that before?
For me, it was. Oh, it was just thrilling. I mean, yes, it was mostly practical. In fact, all the flying stuff in the beginning of the film, Joe asked me before we started shooting, Joe, the director, Joe Johnston, if I would be willing to go up and actually fly. And I at the time was, thanks to my dear old mom, had a fairly intense fear of flying. But of course, I didn't say anything about that. I just agreed, absolutely, I'll go up. I wasn't going to say no. So it may amuse you while you're watching the beginning of the film to realize that I'm kind of pooping my pants the whole time. But it was, it was
There
like...
goes the magic. There goes the magic of the movie.
Yeah, there goes the magic of the movie.
That's the end of that.
There was no actual defecation. That did not happen.
I'm thrilled to hear it.
But it was, I don't know if I'm answering your question. It was just thrilling. And yes, it was a lot of practical stuff. So loved it. Loved it.
Gentlemen, my honor to meet you on the big screen. I have two off-topic questions. First, for Mr. Arkin. How much grief did you get following Peter Sellers as playing Inspector Clouseau?
How much do we? I don't know. I was terrified to read the reviews. Probably an enormous amount. It was a big mistake on my part for a lot of reasons, and that's all I can tell you.
Well, I saw it not too long ago, and you didn't do too bad.
I'm sorry.
And
say again.
Say it again.
I saw it not too long ago. You didn't do that bad a job.
I still didn't hear that.
He said, Alan, he said he saw it some time ago and that you actually didn't do that bad a job.
Well, that's the best compliment I've had this week.
I try my best. Mr. Campbell, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Probably one of the best television programs in the history of television was Crime Story. From the first episode on, I was hooked week by week.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it ended poorly due to the writer's strike.
Mm.
Was there any sort of way they were going to wrap up the storyline, or?
That was way out of my wheelhouse. I wasn't privy to any of that information. It was a disappointing ending, and it was. But if you ever. I mean, to be honest, that show was batshit crazy from day one.
Yes,
it was nutty. And the fact that we went to Las Vegas was because we couldn't ever use a location twice in Chicago. We ruined locations. And then they blew up an elevator shaft and some people got sort of flash tanned. And so they kicked us out. We had to go to Vegas. The whole thing was crazy. And you're right, it ended poorly, and I regretted it. Still do.
But I think being batshit crazy would made it one of the best shows in the history of television.
It might have been.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, guys. How you doing?
Did you make that or steal it?
I stole it, but don't worry. They won't miss it, probably. An honor to meet you guys. I watched the Rocketeer probably too many times. Ruined 3 VHS tapes when I was young, watching it too many times. But now it's on DVD, so it's fine. So thank you so much for doing this, guys. I just have to. I mean, it's so full of heart and love and adventure and morals, and it's just an incredible movie. So thank you for doing it. And I mean, really, the only thing I could ask is, was there anything from it that you kind of kept and remembered that kind of stayed with you going through the years, other than working with amazing people?
Well, I was going to keep that jacket, but you seem to.
You got away with it.
Yeah. It was clearly my friendship with Bill is what I got out of it. And what's her name? Margot Martindale. It was the first time I worked with Margot Martindale. Was wonderful. She's been I've worked with her, I guess, about a half a dozen times since then. And she's in everything that's ever made. Every movie that's ever made, she's in. She's like the female version of Samuel Jackson, who's in every other movie.
Yeah, right.
I met him once, and I said to him, he said, "How are you?" I said, "Well, I had a funny week." I said, "I saw a movie that you weren't in." It was a very strange experience.
I have to echo Alan with probably the most gratifying thing is still being pals with him. And as far as keeping anything, I kept a menu from the Bulldog Cafe that had a call sheet stuffed in the back of it, and kind of a sweet story. You know, you saw the movie when you were what, 10 or something?
Yeah,
Or no,
about, and then
probably younger.
again and
maybe.
again since then.
Yeah, but I was down in San Diego doing a play. This wasn't the play that you came for, Alan. It was the one I did there before, another Shakespeare, and I met a bunch of Navy SEALs, because you know the SEAL team is based down there. What happened was I was out with some friends in a bar, and there was a table full of really rough-looking guys, and I sort of was keeping them on my radar just because that's what you do when there's a table of rough-looking guys, and then I kind of forgot about them, and at a certain point, the friends I'm sitting with kind of look at me wide-eyed, and this hand comes down on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's one of the rough-looking guys, and he's looking down at me, and I'm thinking, you know, my scrapping days are long gone. But he says, "Excuse me," in the sweetest voice, "but are you the Rocketeer?" And I said, yes, I am. And he said, "Well, I just want to tell you, you're the reason I'm a Navy SEAL."
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, "What?" It didn't make any sense. He said, "Yeah, my dad took me to see the movie when I was, I don't know what age he was, 10 or something. And it's the moment that I decided I wanted to be a hero, and it led directly to me joining the Navy and then becoming a SEAL."
Wow.
And, so I invited all those guys to the show. Wait, it was the same show. It was the show you came to, Alan. It was, it was Winter's Tale. Yeah. And so they came to the show, and then of course there were a few nights out drinking with them and so forth. Anyway, the man who put his hand on my shoulder, sometime later, before I left San Diego, we were out and about, and it was his birthday, and I gave him my damn menu from the Bulldog Cafe. I gave away my only thing that I kept from the movie.
Well,
But
take this,
if you ever wanted to see a Navy SEAL try, that was the time.
I'll send you a jacket sometime. Give me your PO box. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a vaguely similar. I was at a restaurant in the Valley, I guess about 6 or 7 years ago, and some huge guy. My wife and I are back to the car. We get in the car, and some huge guy comes over and starts banging on the windshield. And I was scared. I was frightened. I said, "What do you want?" He says, "I just want to talk to you for a minute." Yeah. And I said, "What is it?" I rolled the window down. He says, "I want to tell you." He said, "I loved Glenn Ross so much that I had a wonderful job, and I quit it. I became a real estate salesman." I said, man, you're out of your mind. I go, it's a true story. I couldn't believe it.
Didn't you tell me? Go ahead. Go ahead.
It was the opposite of your story.
Didn't you tell me once that you were in a taxi going uptown in Manhattan, and the cab driver kept looking in the mirror like he thought, and then eventually asked you, "Excuse me, but didn't you used to be Alan Arkin?"
No, no, that was Tony Perkins.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was Tony Perkins. But I've had weirder things happen to me than that. But I think every actor has had a few stories like
Yeah,
that.
I expect it's true.
Hi, good evening, Alan and Billy. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for attending and doing this. I first saw the movie when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and it just had such a huge impact. So, thank you. And I'm really touched by the fact that you, Alan, you attended Billy's play, and my question is, if you two could perform in a Shakespeare play together, what play would it be, and which characters would you play?
Oh,
Romeo and Juliet, without question.
What?
As who?
As who? No. I don't know how to answer that. I've not been comfortable particularly. I've done Shakespeare a couple of times, and it hasn't been a comfort place for me. So,
No, Alan. There is a fantastic play. It's not technically Shakespeare. It's a Lee Blessing play. It's called Fortinbras, and it's hysterical. And you would be fantastic in this play. And the conception of the play. I'll be quick. The conception of the play is that where the lead is Fortinbras, and as you know, he's like the guy who comes in at the end of Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
He's a Norwegian prince, and he comes in at the end of Hamlet, and the entire Danish royal family are lying dead all over the stage, and he says that thing about, go up flights of angels, sing thee to thy rest, or whatever. So the beginning of Fortinbras, the play, is the last scene of Hamlet. And he comes on, and the play goes from there. He ends up getting killed, and he ends up like having sex with Ophelia's ghost, and it's hysterical. And you would love it, and you'd be great in it. You can do it.
People ask me, how much do you want to do? I say, this is how badly I want to do a play these days. Is if you offered me $5 million to do it for 3 nighs, and I could go on and do it with a script in my hand, with no direction whatsoever, and you told me it would bring world peace for the next 500 years, I'd say I have to think about it.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And
have fun.
Any last words? Yeah. Any last words? Anything you want to say to the audience? Wait.
No.
So just to let you know, Zoom's letting me know there's 10 minutes left. So is there anything that you want to say to the audience before you head out?
Yeah, go home and go to bed. It's late.
I would say watch the film and just know that there's a lot of love in there on screen. Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Alan, I'll talk to you later.